I'd like to welcome the Parks and Recreation Commission order.
It's me.
If I could have roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Frederick. Commissioner Lee.
Here.
Commissioner Lawfer. Here. Commissioner Malone.
Here.
Commissioner Teeter.
Here.
Vice Chair Bites.
Here.
And Chair Doherty.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, it's time for the approval of our minutes from our previous meetings.
I read them, looked good to me.
Okay.
I'll
and
second them.
I have a proposed change.
Huh?
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Didn't know when to say that. Under, and I just had it in front of me, the discussion of the work plans and the addition of the 2 items from the Recreation Services Subcommittee under B, Annual Work Plan. We intended item 2 in that paragraph, gathering information about older adults using recreation services. And everything else looks great.
So now if we could have a new motion.
Yeah, I will move approval of the minutes with the edits this meeting.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstains? Any noes? Thank you.
Are there any presentations for this evening? Any oral requests? Any unfinished business?
Good evening, that would be me. So I am bringing this back to you for the 3rd time, so I apologize. The city is looking to bring all of the work plans for the commissions and advisory committees forward to council on March 18th. And we were trying to, as staff liaisons, kind of coordinate that look and feel of everyone's work plans to be more similar. So I was going through your goals and work plans. Your goals ended up looking a lot like work plans to me, work plan items. And so I kind of put them into 3 overarching goals. So the first goal being enhancing community engagement and awareness, plugged in 6 of those work plan items that were from the previous approval of goals and work plans that you had. The second goal was to support park improvement and development, and listed 4 of the work plans there. And the last goal I made was promote recreation opportunities, with the 2 work plans listed in there. So really just kind of a cleanup and a streamlining of the format. And if this is approved by the commission, this is going on to council. And I think Chair Doherty is committed to going on March 18th with me to present.
I
So
have that on my calendar.
Correct.
So yes.
that's the
I
end of my
would
presentation.
imagine
I would go 1 item 6.
Yes.
I recommend that we vote on this as a motion and pass it, and with the modification.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstains? Thank you.
That is mine. Good evening, Commissioners. We received from a Campbell resident regarding he would like to make a donation towards the placement of a memorial bench located on the Los Gatos Street Trail in memory of his late wife. If you look in front of you, each one of you should have a map for the location where it's going to be placed at. where it is, it will be placed, it's about 800 feet south of Campbell Park. It will be located right behind our service center, the Campbell Service Center. It's actually located, butts right up almost to our building there. So the location is there. What we're doing is also is he's wanting to make a donation of $3,100 towards this memorial bench. Right now, what we've done, as we said, we come up with the location and stuff. Not meaning that it's going to go in yet, but it has to still go to our council for approval on March 5th to actually accept the donation. I mean, actually April 1st. I apologize. We're going on April 1st to city council for the approval. If we get approval of the $3,100 donation, then staff will move forward on purchasing that memorial bench. This memorial bench will be same uniform design as our existing benches are out there. There will be no plaque on it, there won't be a name or anything, but it will be uniform to the existing benches out there. So just wanted to let the PRC know that we've received this request and we will go to council for their approval on April 1st.
The gentleman does not want to have it.
My understanding is that normally we do not put plaques with names on benches. I apologize. But yeah, we do not, normally we don't put plaques on it. We'll put a bench. We recently installed one for actually a lady that her husband passed away. It's a memorial bench. Yeah, there's no plaque on it, but the bench is in place in memory of her husband. They understand that 100% going in.
That donation doesn't cover the cost.
$3,100 will cover the cost of the bench, correct?
Well, as a walker of that trail, use the benches.
Yeah, I know they're some are far and few in between. Sometimes you gotta take, it's a little trick to get to the next one. So this one will be located right behind the service center. We'll keep you posted at the next meeting if that was approved by council and if staff is moving forward on that.
Is there any site work that you have to do there? Is that where there's-
There's a little embankment. We'll do a little bit of work. This location was where we had one tree that actually was diseased and it had to be removed. So it was actually removed and we'll do actually a little bit of stump grinding and we'll do a tiny little bit of grading there to flatten that area out. And then we'll be able to place the bench there. But you are correct. There is a little bit of a slope there. Okay.
Just a reminder, after questions from the commission, to close it and open it to the public. It's not normal that we have members of the public here, so just as a reminder to be certain to open every item to the public for comment. And then you can close public comment and bring it back to them for discussion and a motion. Yeah.
Thank
No
you for the
problem.
reminder. Does anyone from the public wish to address the commission? Okay, thank you.
And then you bring it back for final discussion.
Looks
Oh,
like he-
Oops.
Looks like the picture.
Well, there you go.
Okay, my name is Richard Sheehan. I've been a member of Campbell since 1964. And my wife was on the historical preservation for many years. I used to be her assistant and go around and identify historical trees and stuff like that. Anyhow, I walk the Lost Gas Creek Trail frequently. And since I'm 94, it's getting so that I can't make it all the way from Campbell to the spillway without resting. And I thought it'd be neat if we had a bench here halfway. And so that's the etiology of the bench thing. And I understand. I got to look at the new bench that was going to be recommended. It looks very nice. My only concern was the new one was already stained. So I'd like to make sure we have some kind of preservation so it doesn't stain and brings out the grain of the wood. And my fellow walker Dave Sargent, who is not a member of Campbell, but his wife also passed a year or so back, and we'd like to include him. He's going to be one of the helpers with supporting a bench project. I don't know if any of you have any other questions, but that's the gist of it.
Well, I'm sorry for your loss, first of all, but I think it's very generous of you to be willing to donate that to the city. So thank you very much.
I would just like to add, thank you, Mr. Sheehan, for your help on selecting location. I know you work with Bob Shadinsky on that location to find the best spot. So I really appreciate the time you spent out there to find a spot that you were happy with and a spot
I'm
that
there
worked out
3 or
for
4
us.
times a week.
That's my understanding from our staff, that you're out there quite a bit, and your friend, gentleman friend, that
Dave
you
Sargent.
both are very
He
frequent.
used to walk and run the course a lot, so.
I just wanted to express my appreciation to you for your help on,
Well,
Finding
we
a location.
appreciate anything you can do to expedite.
we will, once we go to council on April 1st, they give us approval, then we'll go ahead and move forward. Purchase. Okay.
My thought was, since my wife devoted a lot of energy here at the council, maybe the city could help share some of that in her memory. But be that as it may, whatever it takes, we'll do.
Thank you. So now I would like to close the public meeting, and I will bring it back for discussion if anybody has anything to add.
I just hope the council supports this. Wonderful. I just think the council hopefully will support putting the bench in, because I think it's a wonderful idea. We need it.
So, and are we being asked to make a recommendation? Yeah. I move recommending to the city council approval of the accepting the donation and installation of the bench.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstains? Any noes? Thank you.
All right, good evening, commissioners. So tonight I have our Parks and Recreation Master Plan update for for all of you to see tonight. So the outline for tonight, we're going to go over some recommendation overviews, some preliminary recommendation costs. We'll take a break after that point to ask some questions, if anybody has any questions as on the presentation up to that point. Then we'll move on to the prioritization criteria and engagement results that have just happened recently. Then we can open it up to public comment and then bring it back for discussion from council and get some feedback from everybody. So a quick overview. I know some of you are new to this process. You weren't here when we started it. So our master plan process can be broken down into 4 segments. We had a kickoff with data collection and data analysis that started last spring. We quickly moved into the engagement and needs assessment that we took full advantage of all the patrons who utilize our services over the summer and did a lot of engagement with the community. And so the next step is visioning, priorities, and implementation, which kind of started just after the holidays. And this is where we currently are. When we're finished with this phase, we're going to be moving into the draft plan that'll come back to you in the May-June timeframe, and then the final adoption of that plan in the July-August timeframe. So we're moving right along. A few little delays because of the holidays and things, but overall moving at a good pace. So the recommendations, overview, and highlights we're going to be talking about today it can be broken down into 2 different segments. So you have your system-wide recommendations, which are really your policy guidance. They're helping you kind of set the stage for the system overview as a whole. And then there's site recommendations, which can be very specific to site, places, and different facilities that we have within our system. So we're going to start with our system-wide recommendations. And in this section, they kind of broke it down into 5 different categories. So the first one of parks and facilities, this one, it addresses recreation needs in underserved areas. Some of the recommendations, that are coming out of this are that we need to address recreation needs in underserved areas. We need to diversify and expand recreation options, enhance our park identity and comfort features, which are like your park benches and water fountains and bathrooms and things, and as well as the character. And then expand social gathering space and renovate and update parks and trails. In the maintenance, deferred maintenance and operations, some of the recommendations that are coming out of there are increase our maintenance resources, develop and implement an asset management plan, schedule periodic and ongoing repairs and maintenance and improvements, and leverage volunteer and partner resources. For recreation program activities and events, address the pool and aquatics, diversifying our programs, so having more variety for the community, provide more inclusive and diverse programs and service, and enhance program promotion. For resilience and sustainability, conserve resources, support natural processes, bioretention facilities and native planting, educate the community on sustainable practices, create guidelines for future climate change efforts. And last, for administration, management, and communication, we're diversifying, or they're looking for us to diversify communication languages. So our information that's going out in multi-languages, ease park and facility reservations, strengthen our partner relationships, expand, diversify funding, and update plans at regular intervals, and continue interdepartmental collaboration. So these are very big picture, broad stroke type of recommendations that will later get drilled down in the plan, but this is kind of the overarching themes that they're saying. And system-wide, here are some broad stroke recommendations that we can kind of categorize by these 5 different categories. So for site recommendations, they have several sites that they kind of are using to kind of talk specifically. So Campbell Community Center is a very large site, so that's its own little special spot. Special use sites, like a dog park or something, would kind of fall under that category. Citywide parks, which are our larger parks, and then neighborhood parks are the ones, kind of just nestled in a neighborhood. And then you have your pocket park, like your Ainsley Park and Gomes Park and things. Greenways and trails, and then we have our unserved gap areas. So within our site recommendations that are specific, we can break them down into 3 categories. So you have renovation and renewal, the second one being facility additions, and then expansion and development. So in renovation and renewal, just site recommendations, this is not specific to any site in this presentation that I'm providing you right now. It's just really saying that across the board, our sites can all use some enhancement of our restrooms and site maintenance. Repaving pathways for accessibility, kind of going through all of those different sites and ensuring that happens. Repairing interpretive signage, repairing and replacing irrigation systems, and renovating play areas for safety and accessibility. So for those of you who were here and saw the first presentation from when MIG came and did that presentation, they went through and really ranked every amenity that we had and kind of gave it a score. So we have that scorecard and kind of know, which interpretive panels need updating, and they kind of rate those things for us to kind of go in and attack. But the plan will also have that more detailed information as it drills down. For our facility additions, develop multi-purpose event space or spaces, additional community gardens, additional park amenities such as bike racks, water fountains, shade, seating, and providing sustainable planting and bioretention facilities. So again, not really specifying what location we would do any of these at, but here are some themes that we're hearing, and we're talking to the community and engaging that these are the recommendations that are coming out of them. And so this is creating that pathway for us to kind of develop projects out of the master plan. And then last is expansion and development. So the graph is small, but it does have colors. So anything that has green means that they are within a 10-minute walking distance to a green space, whether it's a city park, a county park, another shared private park, or access for them to be to. So you can see in the 4 corners of Campbell, there's quite a bit of yellow. And so these are our park deficient areas of Campbell. And so one of the site recommendations is addressing this. And how do you address that? So acquisition in these areas might be challenging financially, just acquiring land and developing land. But that is still a recommendation, right? So if it presents itself, it would be something we would explore. Other alternatives are partnerships with other public agencies that might have land that we could create partnerships with to utilize the space to provide additional access in those areas. And last, possibly some mobile recreation opportunities where we bring recreation to those areas to kind of help diversify it a bit. So before I change the slide to preliminary recommendation costs, I just want to be very clear, this is not, we're asking for this much money. This is, again, very broad strokes of trying to understand when we're making policy decisions, when we're changing how we go about funding or creating funding strategies, having some concept of what it would cost to address certain projects or recommendations, we need to know what's the magnitude of money we're talking about. So these are opinion costs that are for today's dollars, and the longer we wait, the more that escalates, as we all know. But just so that everyone can kind of understand a ballpark figure of what that would look like. So first off, if we were to kind of go through and renovate and renew existing sites, and we'll have all those sites, not the community center, all of our park sites, and kind of say all those spots where you need a bathroom refresh, you need interpretive signage, benches, pathways, whatever the case may be, we went through our entire park system, we would need about $9.5 million to address all of those at all of our sites. So let that one sink in because it gets worse. So facility additions to existing sites. So again, this is not including the community center, but for areas where people were asking for enhancements, right? These are the, we love our parks, but it would be great if we had X, right? So more shade has been a very big one that's come out of these things. New amenities that they'd like, water plays or nature play areas, those types of things. You're looking at a $4.3 million in kind of those enhancement projects, right? So again, when we're looking at recommendations in those, it's balancing kind of what's maintenance and what has to happen versus what's the nice to have or the wants. So here's the big one. So the Campbell Community Center, this is buildings and pool project. So understanding that this is a major campus. So the pool and locker room renovation, the gyms, the adult center renovation and relocation, HVAC improvements, restroom upgrades and roof replacements, new building entry, lobby, and offices for the main recreation department, relocating that closer to the parking lot. They're estimating just under $24 million to address all of that in today's dollars. So just bearing in mind, and this is not saying we would ever do all of this at one stroke. It's just simply as we chip away at these projects, the order of magnitude of understanding how much it would be to kind of address everything out there. So, and then new parks and trail development. So we just have on our unfunded capital improvement list, acquisition of 4 new parks, right? It's just kind of a standard like thing. And then the Santa Moss Creek Trail was another project that was several years ago and has kind of just not gone by the wayside, but it's been put on hold for now. And they estimate about $11 million in that category of new parks and trail development within Campbell that doesn't already exist. So I'm going to pause there. I just did a big info dump on all of you and allow you to ask some questions. I'm happy to go back into the slides and kind of share some more content or information.
So on the existing sites, I saw the ADA transition plan was included in that. And that's like a legal requirement to do at least some of that work, I imagine. So like what percentage of that is like, this is legal, we have to do it, certain time frame?
I don't have that answer in this. So I think we have an existing ADA transition plan for the city, which is run through Public Works. I'm getting a head nod from over there. So, so that kind of falls into their purview. And I think even just in our capital budget, that's a kind of an ongoing thing. I think that this is from the consultants identifying specific things that I don't know if are necessary legal requirements, but could definitely enhance the accessibility.
On the same topic, is there any overlap between Public Works maintenance plans for these parks and what's included here in the renovation, meaning any sort of repaving on the sidewalks, any of that?
So in here, this is based off of their ratings. So when they went through our parks and kind of gave them a score and what they felt like it needed to happen. So like picnic tables that need replacing and those types of things. That's what they're saying is that's kind of their estimate to address those things.
So it would be
It's outside of their maintenance.
outside of typical.
Yeah, and typically those fall under capital projects that we bring forward as staff that will be coming in the next couple of months. So yeah, not at this time is it programmed in.
One other question. So you talked about gap areas, we talked about new parks, spaces being acquired. Question I had is for some of those areas, bring up that map again. So you have the different color highlights showing how far you are from different local parks. It does seem that some of the outskirts, while they're not close to Campbell Parks, they are close to San Jose Parks and everyone else. Was that taken into account when you prioritize kind of the spaces or at least for the exercise?
So for this mapping of the green, it did take into account San Jose or other parks. So you can see kind of the green trim around, there's Santa Moss Park kind of in that gray zone in the center. And so that park, we had them include Mary Jane Hammond, and the upper corner up there is also a San Jose park, and all of that area got green because of the 10-minute walking component that is there. So we did take all of that into account.
And I guess could you expand on the, I guess, new parks space that was talked about or that was mentioned in that last slide?
And this was
I think it was.
like in the, oh, you're going ahead too fast. This one?
Yeah.
With partnerships.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, this is, acquisition shouldn't be taken off the table because if it becomes a possibility, it should still be a recommendation. So we'll just say that the likelihood of having the financial means to purchase and develop is not great. However, there are other alternatives like partnerships with schools that are currently leasing their space to another tenant. Are there ways for us to find an agreement to have a shared space and work that way? Are there other public agencies like the water district and along their waterways to have additional trails on those things? That takes a lot of multi-jurisdictional coordination to kind of come up with an MOU that is meaningful to both sides and protects both assets. And so those are just opportunities for us to explore, and they don't actually have the means in all those different corners. It's just, and each one has its own little unique option that we as staff could potentially explore.
Yeah, gotcha. I guess doing this budgeting exercise, it seems like that's one way to cut down on.
Yeah, and this isn't,
everything.
I mean, when we look at the $11 million, it's not a budgeting exercise. It's more of, as we go into the next session, we go into prioritization, right? So where does acquisition fall in that prioritization of things? And so while it's still meaningful to have in the plan as a recommendation, it may not rank as high because the actuality of it, you know, isn't always there.
Yeah. But you have to keep it on the table.
Yes, yeah. Any other questions?
Who is involved in, say, creating a little park, a pocket park in one of these underserved areas? How does that happen? Is that what works?
Well, first, the land would have to be identified, purchased. I think the last park we brought on was the Jonovich Family Park, and that was a family-owned parcel that they sold to the city for half the value if we promised to make it into a park. So things like that don't come in our laps very often. And so it's when those opportunities present themselves. Public Works, we don't have like a real estate agent or anything like that on our team that's actively looking for those types of spaces within Campbell. But when they do arise, it's usually probably between like our planning department and our public works department to identify how it can best be used.
Just for the new commissioners, is that assessment available? That you said the consultant went through and looked at parks, because that will be important in looking at prioritization
Are you talking about for
for the current facilities.
like all
the
the rankings that they
ranking,
did?
yeah.
Yeah, we will have that. I don't have it personally at this moment, but there is like, they use this thing and they kind of went through all of our things, but it's definitely something we can be certain to share.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have a question. So the St. Thomas Creek Trail is exciting to me because I live really close to it. Was it something that came up during public comment or to kind of revive the proposal for that trail?
No.
or-
Part of the information gathering when MIG started this was a whole bunch of information from staff, which included our 5-year capital improvement plan.
Okay.
And there is an unfunded list that states Santa Moss Creek Trail. And they're like, do we add this? We're like, I guess, I mean, it's still a project, it's unfunded. So that's why it's sitting there. It has not come from the public.
I will say that it came before the council maybe like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I spoke, but I was one of 3 people speaking in support of the trail. There was a lot of neighbor concerns, which I think is typical, that maybe there's broad public support, but then neighbors have concerns about it. But I think at that point, that was the end of the city council consideration.
It still sits there.
I am supportive of it.
And me as well, obviously, when I came to the council.
Any other questions? All right, we will move along and oh, I am using the wrong arrow. My apologies. All right, so prioritization criteria. So just after the new year, we had a community workshop and we did a prioritization exercise. I know some of you were there. We broke down prioritizing recommendations that we're putting forward in the master plan in 3 different categories. So we have community values, visitor experience, and implementation. So with community values, we are looking at things like safety and use, health and well-being, a sense of identity and community, equitable services, youth development and empowerment, resilience, and sustainability. So these were kind of the six core values that they were talking about when they're talking about community values. And we had a lot of discussion at the workshop and we did some rating. So I'm going to share some of those responses when we get a little bit further on. We also then sent this out as a online survey for people to take, and we have those results as well. So for visitor experience, they're looking at things like facility variety, what types of amenities are at each site, and is it different from the last site that I was at, and is a good mix at the site I'm at. Nature access and protections, does it protect our natural resources? Connectivity and access, can we improve it by connecting neighborhoods or parks and those types, so that safe access and connecting them from one place to another. And then implementation. So how we prioritize in this category depends on operational efficiencies or cost savings. Is it a wise use of our resources? The greatest impact. So, are we going to get a big bang for our buck on that one? And value. So does it have good value? And the last was ease of implementation. So is this low-hanging fruit for staff to address and kind of go after? And so we asked the participants at the workshop as well as online to kind of rate these and rank them. So some of the engagement results that we're hearing, and these are some themes, are repair, replace old and worn park amenities, was kind of a high ranking thing that came out of this. Build or improve trails and paths, offer or promote more programs and classes, host or promote more community events, add a greater variety of features in parks, increase routine maintenance, and add new parks or expand existing parks. So just a small list. So we asked at the community workshop, considering the criteria that we just kind of went over, what types of projects should advance first over the next 5 years? And the ones that came out were make improvements to the community center, improve and maintain existing parks, and expand walking and biking trails throughout Campbell. So resonating again with that repair and replace kind of mentality, that the theme that was coming. And then improving existing parks was the top funding priority noted in the needs assessment. So which of the following needs the most attention? So shade was a big one that came out of this, that whether that's, with the natural tree canopy of Campbell or with actual structures, the shade was a big one. Improved comfort amenities like the chair or the benches and bathrooms and picnic sites. Improved routine maintenance, so picking up litter, moving landscaping, restroom cleaning, those types of things. So those were kind of their major projects that they felt were important. In the needs assessment, diversifying recreation facilities was noted as a top priority, which the following facilities should be added. So exercise areas and fitness courts were requested, as well as challenge recreation facilities. So looking for a little bit more diverse and robust things to participate in our parks. And then considering the criteria discussed, which existing or proposed sites should be prioritized for improvements or new facilities. So again, the community center was prioritized amongst the workshop users. The Los Gatos Creek Trail, the Orchard City Green, John D. Morgan Park, and the pool were all among the ones that ranked highest at the workshop. And for those of you who were present, we probably had 25 to 30 people at that workshop. So then after the workshop was done, we did an online prioritization activity. And this, we had over 500 people respond, which is fantastic. We had everyone, when they start the survey, kind of put your top 3 words that you think of when you think of Campbell Parks and Recreation. And so community, clean, variety, classes, fun, pool, swimming, exercise, safe, playgrounds, nature, lots of really great words coming out of this. So, and the bigger the word, the more people said the same thing. So that was nice to see, a nice word cloud of positive affirmations of what we're doing. So that first value we talked about was community values. And so when we posed this to the online thing, on this question, we had 424 people respond to this specific question. And so we asked them to select their top 3 of the 6. And you'll see that health and wellness ranked the highest of all of them, followed by safety and use, and lastly, a sense of identity and community. And then the other 3 that were ranked lower, we had equitable services, youth development, empowerment, resilience, and sustainability. So not that they're not important, it's just when we ask the community, if you're going to pick a recommendation, what top 3 values are you focusing on? These are the 3 that they're focusing on. The next one for the prioritization was the visitor experience. They only got to select 1 on this one. So facility variety resoundingly was the winner on this one. If they want variety of things, no matter which park they go to, they want to have things, different things to try and do. For implementation, when we asked this, they got to pick their top 3. So very much of wise use of resources, followed by greatest impact and value. So they're not looking for us to have easy implementation with the low-hanging fruit or improve efficiencies. They're really looking for like good value and in using our money wisely, right? But something that's going to really give us good impact with the community. We did ask a very pointed question about the pool and investment because, as you know, the pool is a community asset that is in need of attention. And so we said in the next 5 years, should we push for a larger investment in the park system, including larger projects like improving the pool, or start small? And so it ranked fairly okay that there's some appetite for people to try something a little bit bigger, and that they're not saying you should start with just the small stuff and focus on that. So that was good. We had 400, I think that's 415 people responded to that question. And then we asked very directly, should we reinvest in our community pool? And it was a resounding yes. So that was good to hear. On this question, we had 323 people say yes, and 414 people answered that question for us. So that was good. And then we had them dot where they live on the map. So you can see it's not just people who live in Campbell. It's a wider community that we address. They're in those far corners. They could be coming from even farther away. They're just not on the map. So it's important to note that while we do serve Campbell residents, we serve a larger community for people who call this place their place to play. So we're addressing the needs of everybody who comes here as well. We asked what your relationship was with Campbell. So do you live in Campbell? We had 229 people who live here responding to this survey. 170 are visitors or spend free time in Campbell. 150 live nearby, so they're not in Campbell, but live nearby, and 65 of them work in Campbell. And then do you have children? So at this time of year, our children's programs are not as robust. We have a lot more adult programming, so it shows in this online survey as well. So 243 of our respondents do not have children under the age of 18 living at home. So we are kind of catering to that, 22 to, plus age frame of people who are utilizing the community center regularly, although we did have a fair amount of families responding to the survey, which was great. So at this point, we can hit pause. We can open for public comment for you, and then we can bring it back for final questions and discussion for commission.
Are there any public comments?
Good evening to the Parks and Rec Commission. Most of you know, my name is Susan Landry. I've attended almost all of the parks meetings. I've seen several of you there. I want to speak tonight specifically about the community center. And in the memo, there is some specific items like renovate the skate park, update picnic areas, enhance the gym, improve the pool and the locker room. But when you look at other system-wide things that really need to be done are things like resiliency and sustainability. Lawn that's not functional is pretty passé. It's not good for the environment. Commercial buildings now you're not allowed to have lawn in front anymore. So there's things that we could do in our non-functional lawn areas, taking them out, putting in bioretention basins, picnic tables, pathways, trails, shade, lots of trees, and my favorite, add an orchard since we're the orchard city. So I would like to have you support having a master plan just for the community center. We have housing, we're gonna add what, 4,000 homes in the next 8 years? Where are those people gonna wanna play and entertain? They're gonna come to the community center. Does that mean we need more space building wise? Do we need more picnic tables? What is really the build out of this city when we incorporate all this housing? And so by having a larger community center master plan to integrate more than just the specific items that are listed here and get into all of the other things. Do we have a climbing wall? Do we have more shade structures and things like that? So I'm here, I came last night and spoke and brought up the same topic to the city council. Just I feel as I'm a landscape architect, I'm not want the job, by the way, but I do master planning and it really helps. And the biggest thing is when you build phase 1, it does not come out in phase 2, 3, and 4. By having that master plan, you're ensured that all the work you do is cumulative and does not step back and take things out. So thank you for listening.
Any comments? Anyone else that wishes to speak? Comments? And I'll commission.
Yeah, I just think it's really exciting. I actually, both from some of the public responses and the public comment tonight, the idea of incorporating, which I think crosses multiple recommendations, native plantings, little pathways, maybe even little gathering spaces within that, shade with that, and using that to replace some lawn areas. Not obviously, lawn is really important for the playing fields, obviously, but there is edge spaces in a lot of the parks that you could like utilize it more intensively, and at the same time provide more habitat for insects and birds, and a little bit more variety too, which was the other thing that was asked for. So I like the direction this is going, and I think basically the interest in repair and maintenance, that's always going to be a priority, particularly if you have a assessment that shows a lot of needs. So that's a very practical interest. But I'm really excited about the master plan and what kind of plans come out of that.
So I do have two questions for everybody. So first, do you agree with the community's priorities that our main focus should be on repairing and placing? And if so, what about more expansive projects such as new parks, trails, community center improvements? And then the second question is, which recommendations are a priority to you? So do you want to?
Yeah, well, I read this question before, so I was addressing it a little bit, right? But so I think the repair and replacing needs to be matched with the needs assessment. So I think anyone coming to a survey kind of from a blank knowledge space or experience in one park is going to value repair, replacement if it needs to happen. So I think you match that with the greatest needs, and that is certainly a priority for the greatest needs and any legal requirements for, say, implementing the ADA plan. Beyond that, for me personally, it's the trails, natural areas, creating like little use areas out of existing parks. I think utilizing some lawn area conversion has some possibilities there. And I've never used the city pool, but everything I've heard so far at the community meeting, it just needs to be done. So that's a huge capital project that is a priority for the community, obviously. And a pool, I think, is always a focal point of a recreation use that the city or town can provide that most people don't have access to in their backyard.
Are there any recommendations that are priority to you specifically?
Well, yeah, the trails and then the resiliency, particularly with native plantings and that sort of thing. And then I think there are opportunities with school sites to reach some of those outlying areas. I'm forgetting the name of the school, but by the Mid-Penn Housing Palms development, the school site there is a lease site to a private school, and it's totally undeveloped. I'm sure there could be a deal to be made there, but that type of outlook, I know you've said acquisition is probably not realistic unless something comes up in the future. But I think working with school sites to develop a facility for the public that is also to use of the school. And in that particular school, I wish I could remember the name. Hazelwood? Hazelwood, yeah. My kids went to school on that campus, so they went to village school initially. And that is one, it's just a lease, so it's not the public school, right? And two, I mean, there's like a whole area that used to be tennis courts that's just, so anyway, and I'm sure there may be other opportunities within the city for that. So that, I think, I was a little disappointed to see the underserved come out low. I know it seemed at least important in the meeting to people. I know that's a smaller subset. But I think people don't tend to use parks that aren't accessible by a short walk or a bike ride. So I want to make sure that everyone in the city has access. So that's just mine.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'd like to attend this, you have a goal of support and improvement. Number 4, advocate pedestrian and bicycle safety around the city community center. I'd like to say we need to add the parks as an essential component to that. And I will use JD Morgan as the example. If you're walking along the walkway, it's what, about 8 feet wide or so? You will have kids on trikes, kids on bikes, kids on motor stuff coming and racing each other, not paying any attention to anything on the walkway. You have teenagers doing that same thing, and you have adults doing that same thing. Motorized, scooters that are motorized. So there's no, as far as I can see, no reference and no guidance anywhere about safety for all the folks there. So
Yeah, you.
I know you know we raised
No, but
it.
you jump back to our work plan discussion. So we're focusing on the recommendations that we just discussed in the presentation about site specific and how the priorities have come out from the community as to repair and replace. So question 1, is that something you agree with, or is there another priority that you feel is a higher level for you?
I agree with that,
Okay.
but I'm challenging the focus just around one piece of safety for people in parks is equally important as it is at the.
I'm not, that is a separate, that came from the subcommittee, so that would be a
Yes.
change.
It did come
in
from
a
the
separate
subcommittee.
conversation than here. So that's where I mean, I think access, you know, when the consultants did do the 10-minute walking, it is about, you know, safe access to those parks and a walking access. But I think we had your comments about motorized bikes from a previous meeting as well.
Um,
Go.
Yeah, I was also kind of surprised to see equitable services not come out as high as the other values. And I'm wondering if people saw that map and kind of were aware that they perhaps weren't within a 10-minute walk to a park. And in particular, I was thinking about when Councilmember Landry mentioned the new housing plan. And, we're expecting hopefully all these people to be moving in. Where will they be going to play, and are there parks within 10 minutes walk? And are we kind of future proofing our plan so that our facilities, if we're doing replacing and repairing, are they going to be able to handle 10% more people or more?
So the plan does take into account population growth based on the housing numbers that are required for us. So that is in kind of our plan and the recommendations that will be coming out of that. So it is to kind of address those issues, because the more people you have, the more park deficient you become, right? Because as your population goes up and you're not acquiring new parks, that ratio continues to drop down.
Where are you gonna build things?
Me? I'm
No,
not
for
building
more
them.
people. I mean, that's just, because I know Campbell's,
Yeah,
we're
and
pretty much built out.
Todd and I have worked with planning. There are opportunities for development to have their park fees offset if they provide space that is open and accessible to the public. And so Todd and I worked through with them what does park and open space look like, and how does it become meaningful to be included in our inventory. And just for example, in previous iterations of this, where they would get discounts, is a plaza would count as open space. But when we drive our city and we look at inventory, a plaza does not consider open space for us. So we removed things like that, and we included things that are very specific: splash pads, challenge fitness areas, community gardens, things that are coming out of this are things that we have put in there that if they include those, then they get the discount, and being more intentional about that. They also have to be public facing. They can't be internal in the inside of their thing. So there's a lot of restrictions for them to get those discounts. So if they want them, they're there and it helps to offset that for us. And then it becomes part of the inventory and of what we're managing. Not, we wouldn't be managing it, but it'd be something that we count as saying they have access to this space.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Comment. So for your repair and replace, I do see that as maybe our first priority, and that's just because we need to have what we have continue to be functional, like to look good. That's part of our identity, right? We want these parks to represent our investment in campus. So I would agree with that. I think there are other things that would come second and third. My choice would be the community center. I like the idea of a master plan for the community center. I don't know what that would entail. And if it would be feasible with the master plan we're creating, maybe that's a next year kind of thing. But I think for my purposes, I think the community center with its playing fields and its pool and all the offices, it is Campbell. This is what we show as our city. It's what most people know in terms of our park services. So I think it needs to look good. And it needs to be accessible and it needs to be fun and draw people. So I would say that would be my priority.
So just for a point of clarification, when we wrote the RFP, short of saying like a secondary site-specific community center master plan included in this park recreation master plan, it was very clear that heavy emphasis needed to be placed on the community center. And so we have never had a park and recreation master plan in Campbell, so it was important to have a system-wide master plan for us. But also recognizing that the community center is a very large asset for the city, and that special attention. So there is quite a bit of that. And, you know, when you're going through a master plan and it's not site specific, if you're constantly focusing on that, people then say, well, what about these other spaces? So we're trying to keep it a bit balanced. My hope is that in the final or draft plan that we're seeing some very detailed information for you to understand about the community center. So, and if not, we can explore other options.
And I mean, if this is our first master plan, that doesn't mean that we don't evolve other master plans as we work these.
We did a community center master plan in the early 2000s.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so we've never done a system-wide one. And so, and that, what came of that was the connection of the parking lots, the relocation of the tennis courts to the rear, removal of one of the bleachers, the skate park being added, the new entrance coming in on the south side. So in the back entrance off Latimer. So a lot of changes took place during that time. But none of the buildings or facilities were. The work was done. The financial commitment wasn't there for that portion.
And we're talking about a community center that dates back to high school.
So the frontage buildings are from the 1930s.
Exactly.
And the rest is probably.
We don't want to lose it, like you said, it's a focal part of our city. We don't want to lose any of that. Absolutely. And the time is right to me, I think, to concentrate on that, on the community center. And we for the city, the size that we have what, 7 parks? That's a lot to manage too and to fund. It would be nice to add new stuff, but I think we better see what the budget's like and concentrate on the community center and the existing 7 parks. I mean, I feel grateful living in Campbell for all that we have. If it means a little walking more than 10 minutes, I'm gonna walk.
I just want to echo the support for the community center because I do think that makes Campbell unique. For the size and scale of our city and how big that community center is and how many people it brings in and all third-party organizations that utilize it, I think it's, and given the $23 million price tag that we're looking at and the need for facilities to be upgraded, I do think it needs a little more attention. So I fully support the community center master plan proposal.
I do not need a motion or anything, so this was more of kind of an update, and if everyone is satisfied with their information and questions, then I am complete with my report.
Thank you very much for the very detailed report.
Thank you. I did have one more question.
Go for it.
This presentation on the slides was great in its detail. Is it possible for us to access that?
Yes, we will be posting it on the website tomorrow, so that it can be accessed by the public. And the council meetings and the PRC meetings are both on YouTube as well, so you can follow along there.
Okay, community events.
Switch my screens. All right, so as I had promised this year, as we're doing things new and looking to do some community building, I would be sharing out at least a month out or 2 months out of information for you. So Friday, March 14th, the Heritage Theater is hosting the City Irish Dance. They still have tickets on sale. On Saturday, March 15th, the Campbell Chamber of Commerce is hosting the 57th annual Celebrate Campbell. This is a black tie event. Tickets are $150, and it's located at the Cannery, so you can purchase tickets through their website. Thursday, March 27th, the Campbell Museum and AZ House will be hosting a history happy hour. It's the history of Mountain Charlie and Hiram Scott. And tickets are still available for that. It's going to be in the Carriage House. On Sunday, March 30th, it's CERT's 7th annual Taste of Campbell. It will be held at the banquet hall at the community center, and tickets are still available. And then on Saturday, April 5th, we have the Commodore's Greatest Hits, so minus Lionel, will be at the Heritage Theater, and tickets are still available for that show as well. So just kind of keeping you in the loop of things that are going on in Campbell. Next page. I was like, why didn't I put this on here? Okay, so the extravaganza and the Bunnies and Bonnets Parade are also coming back, hoping that there is no rain on that day, but that will be Saturday, April 19th. This historically has been something the Parks and Recreation Commission has participated in. We have done floats, we have walked, we've done a variety of things. So I am asking if the commission would like to participate in that event. And if so, we can chat with Public Works to get the old truck and we kind of zoop it up and you guys stand in the back and you wave and smile at the crowd. And it's a lot of fun. And you get to be the bunny. So is there consensus that this is something we would like to participate in? Because I do need to submit an application on your behalf to participate.
I would think that yes.
Okay, so everyone is available on Saturday, April 19th?
Well, I might be doing something.
Okay. Oh, yeah, because you probably are double dipping. Okay. So, so who was a yes? Shirley? Frank? Okay. Tina?
I'm double checking.
Okay. Tentative, okay.
I'm actually, I don't know what we're talking.
Okay. So if you could respond to me by the end of the week, if that April 19th works for you. The parade starts at noon. And so the whole thing is maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Yeah, it goes quick. We don't throw candy or anything. So we just kind of, wave and kind of stuff. And yeah, we have a banner that says Parks and Recreation Commission. Yeah.
I'm unavailable.
No?
A good friend, Seven's retirement party.
I'm available.
Okay.
And I am available. I'll bring a
Perfect. I will most likely bring kid too. We can fit in the costume.
There you go.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, committee reports, Parks and Creek Trail.
Okay, I think some of our representatives went to some of the parks. You have anything to add? Folks?
Did you have?
Yeah, I guess I checked out Sturgenovich Park. The thing I did notice there was a bit of damage to the rubberized surface. To me, it looked new, but I haven't been there in 6 months with my kids, so I don't know if that happened recently or not. But I noticed a little damage there. It did seem like it was a little overgrown, but this was during the rain when I like right after the rain event, so I'm sure you guys got around to it. But other than that, great there.
Just wanted to address the rubberized
Yeah.
resilient surface. We actually have just generated a PO. We have a contractor that will be coming out doing repair work on that to make sure we get those areas addressed and actually seal the material. So that is in process.
Great, good to hear.
Yep.
I think I had any other, any other reports as far as the status of some of the parks. I did, I guess, had questions about the field usage at John D. Morgan as well. I mean, as well as the community center. It sounds, I guess, with a lot of the soccer leagues starting in the area, my understanding is they use these fields during rain events. It sounds like the city closes off all the fields to any sort of activity. It does what I got reports from one of the leagues that my son is in that they were not given approval to play at the community center this spring. And I'm curious as to why I guess if there's a history there, or what happened. It sounds like.
Yeah.
there's-
So we closed the fields this spring for reseeding and a rest period. So there was a lot of like significant divots and areas that needed repair. And so we walked the staff with the parks crew, or walked the area with the parks crew, and decided it'd be best to kind of do a full rest period for the whole season so I can reseed. We try to reseed and it gets too hot and it burns and it doesn't do it. So you really need to do it at certain times of the year. So
Gotcha. It sounds like this is the first time that this has happened during the spring.
And the youth sports leagues are well informed of our decisions when we do that, so it's not like surprise.
Understood. The feedback that I get from the league that we're in is that there are other sports that are using the fields as well on the weekends, some of the camps and such. So
We don't have anything permitted out there, so there might be people who are utilizing our fields, but
that's the
Just-
other complaint is there's pickup.
yeah, so
there's
we
pickup
don't
soccer
have,
happening.
I mean, we used to put up fencing and really block it. But we try to minimize, I think our schools might be out there kind of minimally, but they're not playing like active soccer games or anything like that. So,
There's nothing formal. There's no.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate that update, but I seeing John D. Morgan though, Fields a great same report last month as well. The fields look very good. Yeah, now that kids are starting to play soccer league, they're starting up and everything else. So it's good.
Can I make a comment to add to that? It's really getting green there. And they were mowing it yesterday and it looked really good.
Yeah.
The other observation about JD Morgan I would add is the kids' park area is probably an absolute wonderful idea. It is very busy most of the times I've been there. I had one comment about Edith Morley Park too. They've redone the sign coming into the park. Looks good.
That's excellent, because that was like the worst infrastructure I had identified, and it was from a previous visit before I was on the, so I had said, oh, that sign needs to be repaired, so it's great to hear that that was done.
And the sign too, just to where the actual structure's been put up, you can tell all the new timber and stained and everything. We're actually having the lettering fabricated now. There's an outside company, professional company that will come and attach the letters to that. So that'll be coming here probably within the next 2 to 3 weeks. But otherwise, thank you for the positive comments on the structure.
I went to the Campbell Park, of course, on Saturday, which was a mob scene. You know, we had the bicyclists, we had the joggers, the hikers, and unfortunately, the electric bikes, which are, they're nuts. I wish we could have some sort of control with the city because I think it's very dangerous. The bicyclists go on your left, you move to the left, thank you. They're very polite about it, but not the electric bikers. The playground was packed with kids having such a good time, the basketball courts. There's always a staff member, even on the weekend out there, making sure that the garbage is picked up and stuff and everything looks clean. People are using some of the stations, which was nice to see. The other thing that I noticed that, and maybe the crew's already gonna do this, to the south end of the mobile home park on the creek trail, is starting to erode, the embankment is starting to erode under the blacktop. So another winter it's gonna come off. It's just one little area. But that, otherwise, the whole thing, the rest of it looks fabulous.
Regarding the actual trail itself and the erosion pavement, that work will be performed by our streets section.
Perfect.
Tyler, our street supervisor, has actually taken me out to the site. We've addressed some of those issues on the erosion. We have some of the outfalls that come out that are actually contributing to the erosion on there, but they will be addressed too. So
That's what I
we're going to
thought.
try to minimize the
Yeah, because I said
ongoing
there's like only one
deterioration.
part. I mean, other than that, yeah, I thought it was looking great. And the best thing out there, we saw 15 turtles.
Wow.
It was fabulous. I've seen them out there before, but not 15 of them.
Yeah, we saw a lot of.
Oh, gosh.
Probably red ear sliders, which are an invasive species. I have one question about the creek trail and Campbell Park. What are the extents of Campbell's responsibility, both just to streets? Like is it Campbell Avenue and then south to the next intersection? And then is there any ability to do any work after the beginning of the channel? Or is that all valley water?
The responsibility of ours and the kind of our boundaries set, that we maintain the actual Los Gatos Trail asphalt part of it, actually starts at the Bascom Avenue bridge there. It starts on I guess it would be the west side of the bridge, or some say we have a middle portion of the bridge. We start from that point, but our responsibility takes us from that point and takes us all the way down to the spillway at Camden, Santa Monica Expressway. There's a pad bridge at that point. That's kind of where our responsibility ends at that point for taking care of the actual roadway, maintaining the pathway at that point. And then at that point, it's taken over by county parks.
And that's both sides, where the pathways on both sides?
Both sides
Yeah.
are the responsibility of the city.
Okay, and it sounds like, then this was my wife's question, but Pete the prairie dog, that's outside the Campbell's responsibility. But, yeah, it was like a social media phenom. So like on the creek, right after Santa Tomas Highway Exchange,
Yeah.
it looks like it was done just by someone. But there's a large scale statue of a prairie dog. Yeah,
Parks on a little hill.
but it sounds like that's outside the area that Campbell's responsible for.
That's something I need to go out and take a look at.
Is it near the dog park?
Yeah, it's across from the dog park.
Oh, on the other side.
Yeah, so it's at the end of the developed trail coming towards Santa Tomas. There's like a break in the fence where you can get out to the street sidewalk.
Huh.
But, yeah.
If you're in Camden and you're gonna make a left on 17, it's sitting right there.
But you can see it on Camden, Santa Tomas, if you're not paying attention to traffic, which is a bad idea. But to the right as we're going south.
I think we're gonna
But
have to.
it's definitely county property on that
Yeah.
side. So once once you cross the expressway, and that's.
That's what I was thinking, because the dog park is county park property, right, but just a cooperative agreement, so it's right on the opposite end. No, thanks, that's really helpful for looking at what our area of responsibility is.
Don't remember, I hope you heard all that. We could work with the park group about bicycle pedestrian safety too. We'll talk about that. Does that sound good? Good? All right, I'm done.
Thank you. Our next would be community buildings.
Well, I'll just say that a few of us went to the open house last weekend, and I saw Shirley and Michael out there. And it was a great event. I went with a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old, and they had a really fun time. Each of the booths had like activities for kids to play with, but the star was the bounce house. And the fact that the bounce house was staffed was very important as well, because there were some, brawls in there. So, just congratulations on that event, and good.
Thank you. Staff reports, parks.
At this time, I would like to invite our Public Works Director, Todd, come up and talk to us about a couple of our CIP projects, status on them. Thank you, Todd.
Wow, I never know what that felt like before to be called up to the Parks and Rec Committee. This is awesome. Thanks, Ron. So just a couple updates with regard to some capital projects that I've probably mentioned most of these to you before. One project in the immediate future will be the rehabilitation of one of the parking lots at John D. Morgan Park, the one that runs along the expressway. That one is essentially ready to start construction, and you should be seeing construction later this month. A little bit of that would be weather dependent, but I would look for construction later this month, possibly early April if we get into some adverse weather. So that one should start relatively soon. There was some discussion also about the Los Gatos Creek County Park and the dog park, and you've heard me provide you updates with regard to the dog park before. And we did put some funding, we did allocate funding in our park CIP for a renovation of the dog park, pending some discussions with county parks. And of course, county parks is under the jurisdiction of the Board of Supervisors. Suffice it to say that the Board of Supervisors did consider a ban or a prohibition on synthetic turf. The ban did not pass. However, county staff is still reluctant to move forward with a synthetic turf replacement project. So in the interim, I wouldn't say that the project is off the table. What I would say is the project is going to take a little bit more effort and understanding. I think given the circumstances, the county is much more open to formalizing that co-op agreement that you referenced that may have been expired some number of years ago. But I think the county would like to see if the city is interested in entering into a more formal lease where we would then be quote unquote, we would have some level of ownership and control over the site, such that if the installation of the synthetic turf moves forward, it is completely understood that it is a city project and not a county project. The distinction there under the kind of informal co-op agreement before is that once upon a time, the city of Campbell constructed the dog park, but the county parks department maintains it. And so the county is uncomfortable having that level of involvement in a project that would involve that material at this point. So we are going to have to kind of back off a little bit from maybe a quicker implementation and look at the implication of entering to a more formal agreement. While I'm on the topic of county park, but that same county park, you will have noticed that just to the south of that, there is an area of the creek trail that has been fenced off for quite some time due to a sinkhole and a storm drain that kind of has an outfall just adjacent to that on the bank of the creek. That really is a higher priority for both us and county parks, and I would hope for Valley Water, but that remains to be seen, that we can work collaboratively to get that repaired and or replaced in a more timely manner. So we are going to shift our efforts and our priorities with county parks and make that a higher priority. Hopefully something that we can get resolved in a more timely manner. That project is important to the city of Campbell. That is city of Campbell's, that's our storm drain system that comes from the Dell Avenue area. And we need to keep that free flowing and clear. So we will probably change our priorities a little bit about that. And then lastly, want to touch on just a second. We've heard a lot about pedestrian and bicycle safety tonight, and I know I've mentioned to all of you that the city will be undertaking the development of a multimodal plan that will talk about bike, head, transit, access all across the city. And we certainly want to make sure that access to and from parks and recreational amenities are covered in that. It may not get to the level of detail that is being discussed at any particular site like the community center, but that our advisory body on that will largely be the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. And I know there has been some consideration that maybe a representative or a subcommittee from this commission might want to interact with that board at some point. It's probably a little too early to do that. We are still in the RFP process. We have received proposals from several consultants. Likely we'll be moving forward with the recommendation to council probably in the April timeframe. So I don't know that going to the BPAC in the March, April, May timeframe may be a little too early. This may be something that's more appropriate in summer, but we will certainly keep you posted as to the status of that project. And once it's awarded and we have a project schedule, we'll share that with everybody. So now I will happily I'll take questions.
Oh, yeah, just a comment on the bike community that I do. Cupertino has a really good just signage program, and that might be the tie-in for us with parks. Because a large part of it will just be safety and developing lanes and designations and that sort of thing. But once you have those pathways, the pathways that a bike takes are different than a car. So it's really nice to have signs that show you how to get to the local parks and how to get to the schools. So they have a really nice, and they're like just a different format. So it doesn't look like a street sign that's going to confuse drivers.
Yes, that's a good suggestion as well. Thank you.
Going back to the project, it sounds like you all are trying to prioritize with the county of Valley Water. That is the embankment riprap replacement that's happening. I think it's been a year that's been closed.
May have been longer than that, but sure. Let's go with that.
Who is funding that? Is that county funded?
That is a great question. Right now, no one is funding that.
Gotcha.
And I think that the effort will be that the city will likely have to fund a significant portion of the pipe replacement, right? So I think where we're getting a little bit bogged down at this point is understanding what the requirements of the various regulatory agencies may be, because from our perspective, we think it's a straight pipe replacement project, which could be relatively simple. Some of the regulatory agencies that we've spoken with this could easily turn into a bank restoration project, which could quadruple the price tag on this or more. However, at this point, it looks like it's a city project that we are then hoping to partner with other agencies if we can find willing partners. We are just not at that stage yet to even be able to talk about that.
Understood. I guess I mean, obviously I think the county sees it, but it's a safety hazard for pedestrians and
Yes.
bikers.
Yes. Thank you very much. I will happily return it to the maintenance superintendent.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to report out on a couple of projects that staff, with the help of volunteers, have performed recently. Many of you, you talked about Edith Morley Park. Anybody that's visited that can tell that about 50% of the pathways out at Edith Morley are made out of decomposed granite, which is compacted. It looks like sand almost. The original, installation of that was many years ago, and over time, you have erosion, and it causes trip hazards and other various things. So, with the help of quite a few volunteers and park staff, they put down about 20 tons of gold fine material. It's actually placed, raked out, and watered and compacted. The gold fine, so we have a stabilizer in them. So once you actually wet the material down and roll it with the compactor, it hardens up. So it doesn't become loose as you walk on some of the stuff. It's a little gritty and it's a slippery a little bit. This really tightens things up and it locks it in. So really turned out nice. So the sign, as you stated, I appreciate all the positive input on the structure, but also if you're out there, take a look at the pathways. There was a lot of work done on the pathways. Looks very nice. Also on President's Day, there was actually a large volunteer project. There was about 40 volunteers and a few city staff members. There was a large refresh out at that site. There was actually 8 new trees planted at the site. We had lost a couple of trees over a couple of years ago. They were replaced, and there was actually about another 5 or 6 that were installed. These are located closer towards the basketball courts. There's a walkway that takes you to the basketball courts, and those trees were all added in that area to kind of, once they mature, they'll create kind of a canopy for that walkway and make it a little nicer in that area. Also, they installed about 30 to 40 new plants there. We had some areas that were pretty bare looking. Went in and replaced, put new plants in. Also, there was we have a lot of carpet roses out there, and there was a lot of dead vines and integrated in that. Went through, those were all trimmed back and really cleaned up. There was mulch that was added. So the project was a really big success. There was a lot of work done that day. Like I said, there was a big turnout, about 40 volunteers. It really helped. So it's a good project. One of the other projects that was actually performed by city staff was there was a refresh to the community center marquee. There was some of the plants and the foliage around it was in bad shape. So what city staff did was they went out and put some new irrigation in and installed some new plants. The feature of a couple of plants, which Bob stated in here in his bullets, was purple smoke trees were planted at the top of the marquee planter. I'm hoping that things are better. Are you?
Yeah, great.
Oh, awesome. Okay, great. So if you get a chance to go by, please take a look at the marquee and have city staff put stuff in there too. So hoping once things mature and bloom, things will look better. Great. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
I just have like one comment from my day job experience, but if the DG stabilizer doesn't work, we've had a lot of success with granitecrete, which is, it's similar more to paving, but it really achieves the DG surface appearance. So or it might even be for that park, like if there's continuing issues with it, just that's an option to go with, where it has the appearance of a DG surface, but it's the kind of hardiness of more poured concrete.
Well, let's be definitely somebody be interested. Thank you.
I had one question. Where do you get your volunteers? Who's doing all this work?
Well, we have a gentleman here by the name of Bob Carlson. Some of you may know him.
Oh, yeah.
He is kind of our guru for our paving projects. We look towards him, and he's really able to round up on this last project of the 40 volunteers. They were all high school students.
Wow.
Yeah, they were from either Delmar High School, Westmont High School, and they were really hardworking young people, young men and women out there working. But yeah, Bob Carlson has a lot of good connections on getting volunteer people. Like I said, we talked about the Edith Morley sign, the structure that was, that was probably 95% constructed by volunteer people. So we have volunteer people, but we have volunteer people that have a high caliber of work too. They can really do some of these things that putting a structure like this together. Some of the other things you'll notice that Edith Morley, the wood bridge that goes over kind of our pond area there, that was all done by volunteers too. Same group, Bob Carlson and company, and they went in and they did a really nice job.
Wood fencing too. The wood fencing out there.
Oh, all the split rail?
Yeah.
We put in probably, I would say, over 1,000 lineal feet of split rail fence over probably the last 2 or 3 years. Yeah, really nice. Edith Morley's got a lot of attention over the last 2 or 3 years, and which is nice. It shows.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you for your report, Ron.
You're welcome.
Creation Community
I'm sorry.
All right, so, the events in the events report that I shared, but also last night, the city council, they awarded a contract to Studio G to begin the design work for the adult center. So we're moving forward with that project and probably doing a kickoff meeting with that team in the coming weeks. So as Tina shared, last Saturday, we had the open house. It was very successful. Shirley, I think I missed it. I didn't bump into you there. I was at skate park. And then the skate park event for the community input was very well attended. So it was great. A lot of great feedback. We had Julia Bruckler there, who is an Olympian and pro skater. And she did fantastic talking to everybody and answering questions. And so we had a lot of people out there, a lot of people thought in the boards and those kinds of things. So we now have a survey online. So if you're savvy enough to understand what all the components mean, I am not. I can't even take the survey because I don't know what everything means. But we do have a survey online right now where we're trying to gather more input from people, even if they attended the workshop on Saturday or the community meeting on Saturday. We still want them to take the survey. So our hope is that we'll have 2 designs for you. Julia's going to be putting together, based on the feedback that she hears from the survey results and the community meeting, 2 kind of designs, and hopefully bring those back in April for you guys to talk. And staff from the American Grant Company will also be here, not be here, but probably on Zoom to discuss the designs and have a recommended design, and we'll everyone who's shared with us their email will be notifying them. So we might have a large crowd next month too if those get done in time. Our summer camps and swim lessons, that activity guide is online, and all the registration begins next week. So next Tuesday is resident registration, and Wednesday is our non-resident or open registration. So that'll kind of kick off all of our summer activities. Our activity guide will be coming out in April, with the rest of our summer registration happening at the end of April. The pool, unfortunately, we did just recently do some repairs and did not fix the problem. So we have a planned closure for the week of March 17th to do some additional leak testing and hopefully get those repairs done and any repairs to the decking done during that week, and crossing our fingers that addresses the issue. AARP continues to provide free tax service through the Adult Center on Tuesdays from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. and Fridays 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. So you go there to make your appointment directly with the AARP volunteers. And those services will continue through April 11th, and it's free to anyone if you have a basic return. We have a new recreation coordinator starting with our adult center on March 17th. He comes to us from the Denver, Colorado area. So we're excited to have him join our team. He has a breadth of experience and has a passion for working with seniors. So we're excited to fill that vacancy. We also have a vacancy for our recreation specialist for our facilities. We just started that recruitment and we had our oral boards today. So we're moving forward and hopefully have a full team by summer as we head in. The Ainsley House reopens this Friday, March 7th. So that'll be open through the holidays and ready for people to go and have a tour. And then just one last plug for the Heritage Theater. We have our final season shows this month. So with the Velocity Irish Dance and the Commodores. And that's all.
Thank you. Any questions for Natasha? No? Okay, good at the game. Which end wants to start?
I guess it's I was out with my family at the community center this weekend. There were multiple activities happening. There was just so much commotion, and the community center itself just seemed so lively. I thought all the events that were happening, the ones we attended, were very well run. And overall, just glad to see that space being used. And, yeah, just happy to be part.
I guess I'm starting a trend of wildlife observations, but on the Creek Trail, just saw a beautiful red-shouldered hawk just perched right next to the trail, only about 15 feet up, and just kind of on display for everyone. So even though, obviously most of the Campbell parks are focused on the recreation services, but particularly the Creek Trail does play a habitat role, and you can see really significant wildlife there, and it's always cool when you see something special.
My good at the game for this month is the landscaping at the sign at Campbell and Winchester, because I walk by there 3-4 times a week. And I stopped at one point when the landscapers were putting in the plants, and they were so friendly and so generous with answering my questions about what they were putting in. And I am very excited to see what a purple smoke tree looks like.
Me too.
Because it's branches now. And I also wondered about, are there any plans for the other planters, like the signage at the community center drive, the landscaping around there, and some of the brick planters, like around the flagpole? We have plans for replanting those.
And I apologize, I don't have an answer for you tonight, but I can definitely have an answer for you for our next meeting.
Great.
And talking to Bob. Bob will actually probably be present at that meeting and can probably address that and kind of tell you what he's planning for the future for those planners and sites you're talking about.
Good, thank you.
Well, I already talked about the 50 turtles I saw. I guess the only other thing is I'm very grateful that the city of Campbell has a farmer's market every Sunday, because we're there every Sunday buying incredible produce. If you don't know whether you like beets or not, they're the best. They're so sweet. Beets, get them. And they have fish and tomatoes and wonderful things.
I guess it's my turn, right?
Mhm.
I would like to give recognition to you all for all the effort you've put into looking at what we need to do about the whole area of Parks and Rec, but also the actual activities that you've done and making things look and work better in this last while. I'd be really curious just to think about if you had 40 volunteers and a good number of those were high school students. I would like to suggest at some point, maybe we consider some special way of giving them recognition as a youth group in this area. Just a suggestion. It's our plan of getting, right?
Okay, I don't have anything except for Todd Caperso. And this, I believe, is going to be his last Parks and Recreation meeting. And so Todd, I would like to thank you for all your years here with the city of Campbell. And you've done an excellent job and you will be missed. So with that,
I was coming up here, but I was not expecting that, so I really appreciate it. I was gonna thank you and all your predecessors going back to 2013 for all the great work that we've been able to do together. I've been in and out of being those 40 volunteers a couple of times, and I know some of you have as well, and we wheelbarrowed some wood chips and sand and had park tours and done park master planning and park improvement projects, so thank you for all of that. And I will be around, as they like to say. You know, Campbell does have the best parks and trails going, and I may occasionally run into, you know, one or two of you here or there. I would also like to take this opportunity to introduce you to the city engineer, Amy Olay, who's sitting in the back corner just hanging out. And beginning on Monday, March 10th, Amy will be the interim director of Public Works, so you will periodically see her here as well. And so want to congratulate Amy and make sure that you know who she is moving forward. And again, thank you for the nice words and the recognition, and see you out on the trail.
thanks, Todd.
Thank you, Todd.